We are on the lunch break in the second day of questioning of HN53 for former Detective Inspector of the Special Demonstration Squad. He's been questioned further about the justifications, proportionality of the deployments. He's pretty unrepentant. I'm joined by Emily Apple. What have you made of what he's had to say?
Oh, he's just been awful. He's been asked a load of questions around the spying on justice campaigners. He's got no justification for it whatsoever. And actually, it's so telling because he was also asked a load of questions about institutional racism in the wake of McPherson inquiry.
He didn't accept that.
He didn't accept that either. He didn't represent the police officers that he knew. And then pretty much just made the case for institutional racism in the Met entirely in the way that justice campaigners were spied on. And he kept coming back to this, but there might have been a threat of public disorder, which has not been defined. What he counts as public disorder hasn't been defined, let alone the fact that, and it was put to him that there was no public disorder in any of these campaigns. It was not part of the campaign strategy. It wasn't what the families wanted. Yet they were still spied on because there might have been this risk. And it is just pure racism.
Yeah. I mean, in his written statement, he said that there was no collateral intrusion in any of the reports on Black family justice campaigns. Then he was shown a load of it, and he was like, that was justifiable because they might, there was a section where Neville Lawrence, father of Stephen Lawrence, was recorded as being someone who was always opposed to any sort of disturbances or disorder. And so what more could he have done to have done what the police wanted, really, and not been spied on? And he said, he did everything he could, but it was important to report that because the customer required it. And he went on about how it was C Squad as the customer of the intelligence. It was the onus was on them to tell the SDS if it was proportionate and justified to do that reporting. But then he also admitted that if they didn't want the reporting, they just ignore it. So it appeared like it was like the Spider-Man meme where they're pointing at each other. It would have been their job. It would have been their job.
And I had a feeling this was going to happen a lot with these managers' hearings from having read their statements in advance, that there was going to be a lot of trying to pass the buck to C Squad because C Squad aren't represented at this inquiry and they should be. But just to say that, it was nothing to do with us, C Squad. It was all C Squad. I mean, it is just ridiculous, and it was pointed out to him that, you had RIPA training, you were supposed to know these things. And he was just like, it was what the customer wanted. I mean, there you go, free market capitalism, what the customer wants.
I mean, that's literally it, right? It's literally it. I mean, he keeps doing this thing of of making these statements. We saw it last Thursday as well. And then when presented with the evidence, accepting, the evidence shows that's not the case, but I still say it's fine.
And it's just like, with all of them, they just come across so badly. Because they've got nowhere to go. They've either got to say that everything they did was exaggerated, it was racist, it was not justifiable, or they've got to kind of pretend there was something when there wasn't, when it's so clear that there wasn't. And there is, they don't even have the justification. It's not just us saying as activists, there was no justification for these operations. It's really clear from the evidence. You just have to look at the evidence that there was no justification for any of this.
I mean, the other excuse he uses is that the SDS was in a position to save the justice campaigns from left-wing extremists who would look to hijack these causes and pervert them for their own ends. It was pointed out that there was no desire from any of the justice campaigns to have undercover police in these groups to do this thing. They were quite capable themselves of deciding how they wanted their campaigns to be run. And actually what we've seen is a respecting of that process by anybody who's involved with it. It doesn't seem to matter.
No, and again, it's that underlying racism. I think Doreen Lawrence brought this out in her evidence about how racist it is to presume that justice campaigns can't run their own campaigns, that they need some special level of protection from these non-existent, nefarious, nasty activists who want to subvert their campaigns. And also just completely missing the point that anybody getting involved in a justice campaign, from whichever groups, is because we care
Yes.
about those campaigns.
Yeah.
We care about police accountability. We care about the fact that the Metropolitan Police keep murdering Black people or not investigating their murders or whatever it is. That is fundamentally important.
Yeah.
And that people involved in those campaigns, the number one thing they want to do is respect the families, something that the police and the SDS seem utterly incapable of doing.
Oh, completely. When he was asked, why is there so much reporting on Black people in these reports, identifying the race of the people on the demonstrations, and he said, "Oh, well, that's just necessity because of the nature of what justice campaigns are made up of." And I was like, God, that's so close to getting it.
Oh,
so
isn't it just? Yeah, maybe just stop killing people.
Right, do you think disproportionately Black people in justice campaigns? Maybe there's disproportionate justice for them. Something there. But I mean, no awareness of that whatsoever at all in anything that he said during his questioning just now. I mean, there was another intervention by John Mitty at the end, which it's become like common now.
Yeah.
So strange, so different to how it used to be. This one was kind of a strange one because he was putting it to HN53 that, because of the nature of the justice campaigns about police misconduct, about the fact that it was police who had done the murder in a lot of cases, these justice campaigns, then they wouldn't cooperate with the police. Which actually, I think doesn't bear true in the evidence.
No,
There's plenty of cooperation with the police by justice campaigns who've had a family member killed by the police. In fact, that's been part of the problem. That they cooperated too much with the police. The only way to find out would be to put an undercover officer into the groups. To which HN53 go, well, it was the best way. It was certainly the best way to find out. Probably we did have other methods, but the best one was an undercover cop. And it was and also that there was no history. There was no history of any disorder in any case with any of these. And I said, well, that doesn't matter because it comes back to this idea. Well, there's a potential. There's always the potential.
And it says it all, doesn't it? That it's this like amorphous concept that they can't justify because it hasn't happened.
Yeah.
And that even if they thought there was a risk, there's no justification for that risk, but even if they thought that there was a risk, that intrusive level of having an undercover officer in those groups could possibly be justified. And it just shows, again, we had it with Dal about the purpose of special branch was to gather colossal amounts of data, and it just comes back to this data collection of like anyone that is critiquing the state or is critiquing the police in any way, that is dissenting in any way, that it is therefore justifiable to collect huge amounts of personal information on them with no justification, no appropriateness, no checks and balances, just a kind of like, we want the data.
Yeah, there was. I think my favourite moment, for want of a better term, was when we were looking at the report of the March for vigil for Roger Sylvester. And so there was 250 people in the crowd, and it was peaceful. And he said, but when those 250 people become 4,000 and they're 5,000 and they're violent, then it was shown that we needed the undercover officer. And it's just this fantasy, this utter fantasy that there's 250 peaceful people. Well, there could be 5,000 violent people. So unless we had an undercover cop, we would know. And just like, oh my God, like
it is just so ridiculous. And that even if there were 4,000 people, but he still didn't need an undercover cop.
Yeah.
And and he still missed the point that if they were infiltrating all these campaigns and they knew there were 250 people going, then they knew that there wasn't going to be 4,000, and therefore this additional made-up threat didn't exist in the first place.
There was also questioning about the fact that he denied it was the case, but it's very clear, surely from the evidence, that police were spying on those who were litigating against the police, cheating, as it was pointed out by Barr with a different witness, that you can't. And in lots of cases, it was just reporting on the fact that the police had made an out-of-court settlement. Yeah. And it was almost like, well, you can tell stuff you can tell from the internal files. The Met know that they're offering money to these people, and it didn't really add anything. He was, it's an overview. The customer needs it as part of their overview.
No, it was just awful. And the one thing that they didn't get from the internal Metropolitan Police documents is how the claimant felt about the offer.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the litigation advantage came in, if they knew that someone was unhappy with an offer or likely to accept an offer. And I think like this reporting on civil claims is a massive thing in the inquiry because it happens repeatedly. I mean, I've got it with one of my cases, HN53 reports that I want to take action against the police. And I've seen it so many times and it's come up so much in evidence. And, you know, it's been pointed out repeatedly to these officers that there's no policing purpose or legitimate policing purpose, that they can see a policing purpose that isn't legitimate. To be getting this litigation advantage or getting a heads up on cases. And we have so few mechanisms to hold the police to account. The ones that we do have are incredibly flawed, whether it's this inquiry or whether it's suing them, whether it's making a complaint. But that sort of suing them or making a complaint are one of the two key ways we have to hold the police accountable. And for them to be spying on the way that we are trying to do that and giving themselves an advantage in that is just outrageous. It's completely outrageous. It undermines. I mean, it goes back to this core thing, isn't it? These officers, this unit, had no respect for the law. No respect for the legal process. You know, and we see it now with the way in which. I mean, I've noticed the way that he's answering questions. He's avoiding saying, "I don't recall." He says, "I'm struggling to find a reason." And it's not something that I would see there. And just talking around it, he's obviously been kind of pointed out that he said, "I can't recall so many times on Thursday." And he's supposed to have the filing cabinet memory.
Right,
He's the one we've been waiting for, who can remember everything.
And I mean, clearly, he remembers perfectly well, but he has no respect for the process.
No.
So, you know, he acts in a totally deceiving manner, which it fits entirely with how he was as an officer.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the thing that keeps coming up and actually really gets to me. It makes me so angry. I mean, I'm not shocked by it. I know it. I've always known it. And I've always known it from my encounters on the street. But the bottom line is the police do not respect the law.
No.
They do not care about the law. And we're the ones they want to paint as subversive, as anti-democratic, because we'll take direct action or we'll go on protests, and somehow that's the problem, and none of their law breaking is a problem. But they can do whatever they want. They just don't seem to care or realize what the law is, or they just don't give a shit.
No, not at all. We've got more to come. We've got plenty more to come from this witness. He'll be back in this afternoon. The first 20 minutes of this afternoon's hearing will be in private. That's to protect a member of the public who he spied. Well, he handled reports that were spying on. So it will be a slightly later start this afternoon. Meeting predicts it will be starting about 2:20, which means the broadcast should start about 25 to 3. But it could easily be a slightly later. So look out for that. I'll share the link when we've got a better idea of the time that's starting. Anything else you'd like to add?
Oh, I don't think so. We'll just see what other lies, deceptions, talking around stuff, avoiding questions he can come up with to not justify anything that he did.
All right, well, thanks for joining us. Thanks to everybody who's liking and sharing and subscribing to these videos. It makes a real difference. If anybody's got any comments, please do leave them. I will address any of them that are sensible. Thanks for joining us, and I'll see you all again this afternoon. Bye.